Obese people of Reddit. What is something non-obese people don't understand or can't understand? Story 1. As a former obese person, having to pull down your t-shirt shirt to prevent it from lifting up, my non-obese self has well-fitting clothes, and I still subconsciously pull my t-shirt down that, and the glaring looks that you get when you stand in food lines at buffets or at airports. Comment, "Oh man, I'm in community theater and I also do improv." I try not to because it's just not a good move on stage, but I still end up accidentally doing the pull up the pants, pull down the shirt thing on stage. It's just ingrained now. It's pure muscle memory. I hate that I do it. Story 2. When you're fat but people like you, they will divorce your fatness from your character, but they'll still talk negatively about fat people in front of you simply because of their fatness, and you just sort of sit there like, come in. Oh man, I had this so bad when I was younger. They'd point out big guys and make snide comments. I'd say, he's no bigger than me, isn't he? So I sort of got divorced from how big I was getting. It wasn't until I saw a pic of myself with that chunky bloke and realized I was fatter than he was. Yeah, so much. You're not that overweight, and you wear it well, that by the time people were concerned about the weight gain, I'd fallen so far down, it was really difficult to pull myself back up. Story 3. As someone who was once obese and now is just a bit overweight, holy duck, is it hard to keep it off. I still want to eat like I did when I was heavier. Oh lord, the furniture. I'm not obese, but definitely not small. I sat down on a chair and broke it years ago. That chair was being held together by a hope and a prayer, and would have probably broke if the wind blew too hard, but I was the one that broke it, so I got pointed and laughed at. Anyways, I check chairs before sitting down now. There are a lot of replies to this comment. I'm sorry, we've all experienced this trauma, duck, plastic, metal, and wood chairs. We only sit on tree stumps from now on. Also, thank you for those who asked if I'm okay. I am all good. This happened decades ago at a family gathering. After my cousin stopped laughing at me, they helped me back up. Story 4. How people treat you with active disdain. People glare at you, they scoff at you, they make faces of disgust when seeing you. Random ass people feel free to honk at you and yell crap from their car when you walk alongside the road. The hatred is honestly intense. This is where I'm struggling. Losing the weight, I can do that. I am doing that. I've just about done that. It sucks, but it's not complicated. Do the exercise every single day. Do the healthy, low-calorie diet every single day. Be hungry every day, and have sore legs every morning. Not fun, but not hard to figure out. I just have to wake up every day and say, no, I'm not a bit. This isn't the day I give up. But that's not a long-term lifestyle. I just decided to lose the pounds. And until I did that, healthy food prep and exercise was going to be my hobby, the thing I prioritize when not working. But now that I'm here, and more or less at a healthy weight, I don't know how to spin the plates to maintain this normal. I have 30 years of prior life experience that I need to ignore, because if I'm like, I made it now back to how things were, I'll just lose all this progress. And have to do another 6+ months of hell. I'm considering getting into weightlifting, just so that I can have a replacement hobby that won't contribute to everything fall apart. Story 5. Unless you're a medical professional who specialized in weight loss, there's probably nothing you can say to them about their weight that they haven't already heard, or are not already well aware of. Comment, I'm very close with my sister-in-law, and I can't believe some of the mean things doctors have said to her about her weight. She's always been heavy. But when my wife died, her sister and best friend, her coping mechanism was food, and she gained quite a bit more. She honestly tries to help herself, but it's a struggle, and I can't believe how rude some so-called medical professionals have been to her. My old doctor told me my abdominal pain was because I was fat and ate too much bread. I kept cutting carbs until I was consuming only meat, eggs, and water, but the pain got worse. Finally, I went to a Gwyn Emergent Care Center and found out I had a severely advanced case of adenomyosis. My uterus was turning itself inside out while the flesh calcified. I ate a sandwich when I was recovering overnight in the surgical center, the first bread I'd had in over a year. I also got a new doctor who actually listens to me, and I went from a size 22 to a size 16 under her care. I can't recommend getting into weightlifting, and enough when I lost weight 45 kilograms. I did it without any exercise. I focused purely on diet and walking. I found that the more weight I lost, the harder it was for me to eat at maintenance. As I kept having to decrease my calories, I ended up maintaining my weight at 1,500 calories, and I thought I can't live like this. Since I started weightlifting and gaining muscle, I've managed to raise my maintenance calories, and it has been so much easier to navigate the hunger. Plus, weightlifting has genuinely been enjoyable and rewarding. Story 6. I've been heavy and light and back again several times, which takes a massive toll on the body on its own. But there you go. I have always mentally been obese, in terms of the space I think I take up in the world. Even at my lightest, which was about 10 lbs north of my ideal weight, I would still check every chair to make sure it's not rickety, still turn sideways to get between things, when I didn't need to still eyeball things, like amusement park rides and theater seats because I thought I wouldn't fit comfortably. Obesity has a huge impact on the body, but also on the mind. It's why they say things to men, like find a fat girl to have intimate with, she'll be grateful. It's also a little bit of armor though. If anyone is going to make fun of me, it's going to be for one thing, being fat. No other insecurities ever get picked on. I'm seen as only being one thing, so I've gotten pretty okay with people pointing it out. Story 7. How you become expected to be the garbage disposal. Oh hey, there's leftover cake from SEO worker's birthday thing. We'll take it to fat coworker. They'll eat it, or the last dud or whatever. And then they get all upset when we say no, and are like, it'll go to waste because I'm already fat, so what does it matter, right? Comment. Or when you do try to lose weight with diet, people always try to tempt you off it. One cake won't hurt, or they'll get all offended when you just want to eat a salad in peace. It feels like no matter what you eat or don't, as a fat person, someone is there to judge not obese, but overweight. I grew up with a farmer dad who'd freak out about any amount of food waste. We were a clean the plate household. Part of my adult weight loss struggle is unlearning that and teaching myself that it's okay to just throw it out sometimes. Story 8. The constant need to physically adjust yourself. I wear clothes that fit, but I'm still constantly adjusting my clothes, my body position, etc., just to be comfortable, and for my clothes to have a chance of hiding some of what's going on here. My thin friends almost never adjust their clothes, and such comment. Personally, I've been able to keep the weight off because I viewed the weight loss period as changing my relationship with food rather than going on a diet. It meant progress was slower, but I only ever picked things that I could see myself doing in 20 years, like making sure every meal had enough fiber, fat, and protein to sate me, swapping out all processed snacks and juices for nuts and fruits when I was hungry between meals, and thinking about how I was going to feel later after eating something. I found that I started preferring these things anyway. No protein powders or endless chicken breasts to meet protein goals. No artificial sweeteners and low-fat substitutes to lower calorie counts, and no overly restrictive habits like avoiding all carbs or not enjoying regional cuisines in their fullest when traveling. The fear that the weight will come back never really goes away, but it just becomes quieter and quieter until it just seems like a silly momentary thought. Every time it happens. 2 years back, I finally gave up the calorie counter, but my weight has largely remained the same, and I'm so much less self-deprecating about having an indulgent meal or treat now than when I was overweight and supposedly not caring about my body. The inertia of my habits is behind me, and I feel free. This seems to be getting quite a bit of traction from people looking to lose weight, in addition to behavioral changes related to food and exercise. I cannot stress enough how important changes in behaviors related to sleep were for me. The impact on satiety was food, sleep, and exercise in that order. Story 9. Just how much internalized shame we carry. If you've seen someone who is really skinny struggle with shame, with thinking that they are too fat, and feeling guilty about how they look, that same shame lives inside. So many of us, and a lot of us, are honestly doing the best we can with subpar healthcare and normalized stigma. Story. It is really easy to gain weight over time. You get a sedentary job and you snack occasionally. And in the evening, you watch TV or read a book instead of going out. So you weigh 3 lbs more than you did at this time last year. No big deal right now. Multiply that by 15 years or so. All of a sudden it is your 40th birthday, and you somehow weigh 50 lbs more than you did in college. It isn't because you always eat 2 boxes of Oreos a night. You just gained a little year after year. Also, it is a lot harder to lose weight when you are heavy. When I was 25 and thought I'd gained a few pounds, I'd start jogging. Pretty soon, I'd be able to run 2 or 3 miles at a shot. And hey, problem solved. Now I'm older and heavier, and that means I'm a lot more prone to injury. So I try to work out and my knees start hurting again, or I aggravate an old foot injury, and it gets frustrating. There are workarounds. Of course, I can swim and I can lift weights, but it is all harder than it was when I was young. Story 11. We know we're fat, like trust me, I know. Losing it is harder than it was to gain. I know I just ate, but my body is screaming that it's starving, like down to the lightheaded nausea symptoms of not eating all day. Even though I ate an hour ago, I know a lot of people think drugs like OIC and Wave are cheating, but Weave has literally changed everything. I can eat a healthy portion of food and be satisfied. Looks so true. It's like you can suffer through the hunger all day and then down 800 calories in 3 minutes during a brief moment of weakness. Sticking with it day in and out for months is really hard without support like WooE. Story 12. From a woman's perspective, that men don't think you are allowed to say no to them or reject them. There are a lot of men out there who think because you're fat, you're probably lonely, and you should be happy with any male attention you get. Story 13. That for some of us, losing weight is extremely difficult. Some medications can make you excessively hungry. Also, those of us with long-term depression and anxiety issues often use food as a source of comfort. We PROPRA. It's a poor choice. But in the moment we don't think of anything, but eating something tasty, having people patronize us actually makes things worse, not better. I totally agree. I used to use alcohol as a coping mechanism, now it's food. I feel way more judged for being fat than I ever did as a binge drinker, but hey, at least I was thin when I was a blackout drunk. Story 14. Shopping for clothes has definitely different criteria than skinny people. It's not, oh, that looks pretty, but, oh, they actually sell this in 5XL. Story 15. Just because we are obese doesn't mean we can't do physical activity. People don't have to act surprised that we can indeed participate. I've heard this from people when I've gone to play soccer or any other sport. I am not the fittest guy playing, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to die if I run around for a bit. I was obese when I was in college, and I took a scuba class for PE Little. Did the instructor know I'd been swimming my entire life? He kept making all these comments about how some of us wouldn't be able to complete the mandatory yard swim. Really pointed looks at me. Every time he said it, it didn't bother me because I knew I was going to blow it away. I dove in the water and easily swam yards without stopping. Meanwhile, some of the skinny but out of shape or just never swam before swimming as hard college freshmen ended up crying halfway through. That was legit one of the best moments of my fat kid life, proving that judgmental instructor wrong. Story 16. Being invisible, also that you are assumed guilty for anything, not just related to food, just because you're overweight. Fat people, especially women, have a far higher guilty verdict in all US courts. Yes, I get that. It's ironic that one can be invisible until someone needs to attribute blame. Comment. That one is so wild to me for even the most minor of things. I was going through TSA and had a dozen donuts in my carry-on from a cider mill in my hometown. Probably 10 years ago, the TSA agent started cracking up and loudly saying they knew whose donuts those were and pointed at a large man walking through the metal detector. At the time, I've been called fat my entire life and had people yell things at me, tell me I'm too fat for them, etc. All while never crossing the 160 lb threshold. Not that it matters, but men are cruel. But this guy was bigger than me, so he got blamed for having donuts. They pulled my bag to inspect further and were like, "Sir, your bag." And he was like, "Huh." They were so surprised when it was my bag, and they loudly were like, "Whoops, guess we were wrong." Luckily, I don't think the guy knew what they were implying. But like, what the actual duck, man. Story 17. How much advice people try to give you why eating an apple is so much healthier than eating a cookie, or why it's so dangerous to be overweight. I know you were worried, and I appreciate it, and I really do know these things. I'm really trying to keep up with you, but I can't run a mile every day. I can walk at my own pace and cut out the things that I can. But it's not working for me the way that it used to. Comment. It's so patronizing and condescending. I'm not fat because I don't understand basic things like calories, diet, or exercise. I'm fat because eating is my coping mechanism. I don't drink alcohol, smoke, or do drugs, and I don't judge those who use them to cope, but it's instantly obvious that food is my problem. My weight shows it to everyone in a way that my drinking and drug use never did. Story 18. A lot of people don't understand that food addiction is just like any other addiction. They treat you like you're a disgusting pig, and why can't you just stop eating? Why can't you just eat healthier? Why can't you just be better? But with an addiction like alcohol or heroin, the goal is to completely wean you off of, and then avoid the substance. You can't do that with food. You have to completely relearn how to nourish yourself and see food as Fuel people treat you better when you're thin. If you're fat and you're trying to eat healthy or work out, you still get stared at and made fun of. If you eat unhealthy, you get stared at and made fun of. You can't win. People still think it's completely okay to be mean to and make fun of fat people because it's completely their fault, right? You see it all over Reddit. Binge eating disorder is an eating disorder, just like anorexia is, but it gets much more pity and understanding than bad comment. In your second paragraph, you point out that food addiction is actually not like any other addiction, and you are right, it is worse because, like you say, any other addiction you can just stop. Don't drink alcohol, don't do drugs, don't gamble, don't do whatever it is that feeds your addiction. Sure, that is hard, but you can fully stop and never do it again. But you can't stop eating food. Addiction is like being a heroin addict and being told every single day you need to take just enough heroin to keep from getting sick, but never enough to get high. It's a nightmare life and is extremely difficult to break through the addiction and get it under control. Every day, everywhere you go, every event you attend, you are surrounded with your drug of choice and need to never give in. People who aren't food addicts don't grasp just how hard it can be. Story 19. How painful being alive is. I'm not obese anymore. Last year I was 375 as lbs. I was obese, then living is painful. People would tell me to exercise, that I'd get runner. It's high, that it's easy. No, life is pain at nearly 400 lb. Everything is so hard. I now weigh about 210 lb. Life isn't pain anymore. I still hate exercise, but when I exercise I get tired or exhausted depending on the intensity. I don't get. I want to kill myself. Borderline injured. Show your obese friends some kindness. Comment. As someone who's also lost close to 200 lb before. How about when you hit your goal weight? People are amazed every time they see you and tell you you're looking great, you're buying clothes you never used to be able to, and everything is just easier. Yet, when you look in the mirror you still hate yourself and come to realize it was never the weight or the eating that was the problem, and you can't diet or exercise your way out of what's wrong with you. Story 20. The guilt that comes when you're seen eating anything at all, the all good for you. If you're seen eating a salad, because the only possible reason a fat dude would eat a salad is to lose weight. The existential dread every time you get a random pain in your chest or stitch in your side and think that this could finally be the heart attack. The fact that you can go days or weeks at a time without really feeling bad about being fat. But then all of a sudden one day it's all you can notice about yourself. Summer ducking sucks, it's too hot anyway, but being fat makes it hotter. And then you get worried that despite having perfectly good, if not over-the-top hygiene, maybe you're starting to have fat guys smell. Also, the unsolicited advice from incredibly well-intentioned people that don't think we haven't heard it all already, or don't know it already. Logic brain versus emotional brain is so misunderstood. Commit. Feeling judged. No matter what food I am seen with: vegetables, fruit, hummus. No amount of healthy eating will help her. Chips and frozen pizza. No wonder she's so fat. A mix of healthy and non, more of the same. I once got the "oh wow, good for you" comment from a thin coworker. When I was eating a salad for lunch, I started laughing because I eat a salad for lunch every day, like I have for the past 10 years. She just didn't realize. Because we usually work different shifts, I told her I was fat because I ate too much junk food in addition to my healthy meals. And she acted like it was the most awkward conversation she'd ever had in her life. Hey, you were the one that brought it up. Story 21. You're more in danger of poor medical care. When you're obese, physicians will say, lose weight in live testing, diagnostics, or anything resembling medical care. Kent can confirm broken ankle, was told just to sprain it. Wouldn't hurt so bad if you weren't fat. Same for the other one. Same for the MCL and meniscus tear. It's exhausting trying to get appropriate medical care when the only thing they register is that I'm a fat woman. Story 22. Fat cells don't disappear due to dieting, they just shrink. They plump straight back up again as soon as they can. It takes at least years of lost weight to lose the fat cells, so a successful diet can easily be years in the making, even with the best commitment. No wonder diet plans fail. Comment. This really helps hammer home that it's not a diet change that makes you lose weight. It's a lifestyle change. I added fasting and just mindfulness about how much I was eating, and I've lost 20 lbs in the last year. It's baby steps. One small positive change, and when you have it nailed down, another. This year, my focus is making better food choices. I'm making my own breads and such from scratch, so I know I'm not getting processed crap. And even then, I'm not having too much carbs, more veggies, more fruit. Story 23. I dropped a lot of weight before, and family or friend reunions go one of three ways. 1, the person tells you look great, and they ask what you did. 2, they'll tell you look so much better and healthier because they were concerned about you. However, the surprising one is 3, they'll insult or complain about the heavier you, like it was a completely different person, and #3 isn't coming from people you normally have contentious relationships with or people you have tough love hard joking relationships with. You expect jokes from those people. It surprisingly comes from the people you were very close to, sometimes ones you never hear speak badly of anyone. The hardest I've heard was, "I'm surprised we were even friends," on a similar note. A friend found out I was much heavier before I met her, and she said we wouldn't have even been friends. It's those comments that stick with you even more than the insults from when you were heavier. It's harder because it validates the insecurities you had about your weight, how people perceive you, and how conditional some of your seemingly closest relationships actually are. Thanks to depression and quarantine, I've put some of that weight back on, and those remarks still will come to mind when I'm feeling insecure. Story 24. I doubt anyone will see this, but I'll give it a shot anyway. What you don't understand is that for many of us, this is a real disease, and not some failure of character. I wouldn't have accepted that statement a year ago, but as someone who was 46 albus plus last April, and is now 268 and falling, I have a radically different perspective. I've been big nearly my whole life. I'm 45 today. Last year at New Year's, I decided to just give up. I've tried diets, going to the gym, non-stop hypnosis, really medically supervised high-risk medications, etc. Through all of it, if I lost anything at all, it came right back. Then my doctor told me about a new class of drugs, and I brushed it off, but decided why not. The day after my first dose, I made a meal, and got about 13 hours of the way through it, and felt full. It was a very odd feeling because I'm here to tell you, I don't think I felt full since I was a teenager. I stopped constantly thinking about food, what I would have for my next meal. I stopped snacking so much. I started getting mobility back that I'd written off as gone forever. Did I suddenly develop willpower out of nowhere? Did I get a new sense of personal responsibility? No to both. The chemical triggers for hunger my body had been massively overproducing for decades were greatly diminished suddenly. Dieting was a real possibility. I didn't stop getting hungry. I just suddenly knew when I'd had enough and stopped eating. Since then, I've been swimming, biking, working a punching bag, and feeling better than I have in my entire adult life. My entire relationship with food changed because the physical defect I have is finally able to be medically managed. I have to tell you, if I'd had the metabolish most people are born with, I'd have been out enjoying all of the physical activities I'm now for decades losing. Weight is still hard work, but I've always done the hard work. It's just finally accomplishing something for the first time. There's never been an ounce of lazy in me. I have a great career I've had to work very hard for, and a loving home until now. Though I've had an unmanaged medical condition, I don't go announcing it everywhere, but I'm quite open about how I've been losing weight to those who have asked. You can see the oh-ho cheating judgment wash across some faces while they congratulate you and walk off. Would you accuse someone with cancer of cheating for taking an effective medication if you get a giant cut and go and get stitches? Does society look at you and say, well, you really could have just held the skin together and healed yourself? The science is settled. A significant amount of obesity is induced by a legitimate physical problem, not weak-willed laziness. Sure, those people exist, but they're not as common as you've been led to believe. I'm the same person I always have been. The rest of the world can just see it now. Comment. This is exactly how I felt on OIC. It's honestly made me so mad at the world. For decades, people treated me like I was dumb and didn't know how to eat or exercise. Then one day I inject a tiny dose of liquid into my thigh, and the weight has just melted off. Since then, I'm not trying. I eat when I'm hungry, and I stop when I'm full. I never used to feel full before. My brain just didn't send the right signals. I feel like I had a chemical imbalance that has been corrected, which TBH isn't untrue. I am severely insulin resistant. The food noise in my brain has just turned off. I'm like, is this how skinny people just feel their whole lives? Story 25. How inhuman you feel being obese, and how painfully aware of that you are when out in public by the up and down glances from people, the coldness, shortness, and avoidance, also unsolicited dieting advice assumptions after mentioning that you're making lifestyle changes. I've researched fitness health and read tons on obesity, metabolic dysfunction, watched all the TED Talks and YouTube gurus, went vegan, keto, did juicing and fasting, got blood tests and seen doctors, specialists, dietitians. I know a lot, I'm always learning. I've lost over a 100 pounds since December, yet people will chime in, just cut out soda, just eat less and move more duh. Try keto, try bariatric procedures, etc. I never drank soda, always been a hider homie, also seltzer and herbal tea lover, so I really hate when people assume I slurp down a pallet of 2L sodas daily. I always preferred to eat my calories, not drink them. I do eat less now, and move more my sedentary. Obesity stemmed from unhealed trauma throughout childhood, bad coping habit of binge eating, severe agoraphobia, have spent years being housebound, former SACE attempts, and in a toxic relationship. I'm well aware of what my mentality was to be so unhealthy. By being so fat, I needed to face that first, and I finally have. I don't expect people to know or care to know any of that. I hated myself far more than anyone ever could anyway. Story 26. Sometimes medicine makes you gain weight, like my meds. I'm trying to lose the extra 40 lbs I've put on since cancer, and here I thought chemotherapy would make me skinny. Story 27. I've lost 180 lbs after having a gastric bypass 22 months ago. While the physical change are awesome, the best thing is that my mind can focus on things other than my weight. I hadn't realized that the thoughts about my weight and food were a constant background chatter. Can I park close enough to the supermarket door that I can get inside without stopping? Or will the cafe have some of the chairs left that I can fit in, and so on prole of the time? So much of that has dropped away, yet I wasn't fully aware that it was clogging my thoughts until it was gone. Like only noticing that your radiators were making a noise once the boiler goes off at night and they fall. And I'm now at peace. Story 28. It's usually not as simple as just stop eating. Eating can be an addiction or compulsion. That doesn't mean it's impossible to overcome food issues, but it's harder than a lot of people like to acknowledge. Story 29. Fat people wear their pain on the outside. Lots of thin people walking around with major mental illnesses and addictions, but they aren't visible, so they are perceived as normal. We are judged so much more than anyone else with addiction because it's visible. I'm donating my body to the Mayo Clinic with a letter talking about my lifelong struggle with my weight. I hope they can dissect my brain to find the cause and treat it for future generations. Story 30. How easy it is to get from normal weight to obese, almost without realizing it, or forgetting until looking for new clothes, or seeing photos of yourself. Story 31. Was obese 340 and lost 120 lbs, and got really strong that we don't want to be obese. It's not something someone who has never been obese would understand. My addiction to food and emotional eating absolutely took over my life. That people treat you differently. I have a level of disdain for people I'm close to that completely changed the way they spoke to me, spoke about me, or the general interest they showed in me after I got into shape. It's so crafty. Then the real kicker is you actually start to tie your self-worth into your weight because of it. That pressure almost always results in relapses and weight gain, then more massive depression. Clothes don't fit, to be fair. I'm 64 in with wide shoulders, so nothing fits no matter what weight I'm at. However, being obese was constantly an issue with clothes. I was super uncomfortable and would often wear the same 3 or so t-shirts everywhere. I literally wore 5 different shirts out of the house for a full year. I felt humiliated, but they were the only ones I felt somewhat comfortable in washing. Clothes sucked because they'd tighten up. Eating in a booth, ducking sucks. There were so many places where I couldn't fit in a booth. It's ducking depressing to ask for a table just for that reason. Either that or be horribly uncomfortable and embarrass the entire meal. To all obese individuals starting to lose weight, keep your 4XL shirts and pants. When I lost the 120 laws, about 60 lb, and I was more depressed than I was when I started. It was so hard, I'll never forget it. The caloric deficit can do that to you. The one thing that helped the most was that I kept the giant t-shirts I used to have to wear. I put one on one night where I was at rock bottom and ready to give up. It was like a dress. I could not see my progress in the mirror. I was just so used to hating the sight of myself that I couldn't trust my own judgment of my progress. But seeing that ducking shirt and how it was almost comically big helped me so much. Keep that crap. It's a reminder of where you came from. Story 32. That if fat shaming worked, there wouldn't be fat people. Also that yes, I do exercise 3-5 days a week. And I do diet. And I don't just stuff my mouth with junk food day in and day out. Story 33. How hard it is to actually lose weight. It's so tilted towards staying fat. You eat a slice of pizza and think I'll just run this off. But then you do the math and it turns out that pizza that took you 3 minutes to eat means you Now need to run for 40 minutes. Then there's weight training, which you should do because better muscles burn fat better. But after 2 jobs and 2 kids and errands and chores, by the time you have to actually go to the gym, you are way too exhausted and just want to veg on the couch. And then even if you do lose the weight, you are doomed to a life of constant vigilance, because even if you slip for a bit, your old habits and emotions come back to you. Like a trained food addiction is real. Story 34. Having to face the dilemma of choosing the perfect outfit every time you leave the house. A lot of obese people are incredibly self-conscious about their bodies and will wear more bigger clothes to feel more comfortable. This makes you overanalyze the weather and stuff. Layering wrong is going to make you too hot or too cold. Later on comment. Definitely my smallest part is my rib cage, my largest is my bust. Trying to find outfit combos that aren't shapeless but also don't get eaten by my boobs is a constant struggle. I work in healthcare and scrubs are the worst. I keep hearing people talk about how they're like pajamas, if they are. It's the worst pajamas I've ever worn. They're either shaped like circus tents, which make me look pregnant, or ultra slim. The tops either have 0 useful pockets or massive pockets directly on top of the belly, and none of them seem to accommodate large busts. Unless you size up a ton, there are a couple brands that do better, but not because they're fitted. It's because they installed obvious ugly elasticized panels. Maybe I should just sew my own. Story 35. There is an incredible link between adverse childhood experiences, ACE, and obesity, especially in women. I'm posting an article about that below. Many people who are obese are that way, due to the trauma they went through as a child. I am also posting a link to the 10 questions used to determine someone's ACE score, SC, over 3 correlate with significant increases in a variety of issues in adulthood. My score is 8. I've been doing therapy every 2 weeks for years, working through trauma, trying to get to a place where I am mentally healthy enough to lose weight. Even my doctor doesn't understand this command. Holy Batman. This just set off a light bulb for me. I have frequently had my parents give me lip about my weight, and one day I snapped at my dad that I'm trying to survive, not diet, therapy, meds, and a swimming pass help a little now, but only before Christ I am out of that complete survival mode. It's hard to give a about your weight when you're just trying to move your life forward. Story 36. I've been super morbidly obese since I was 6 years old. I literally don't know any other life. Am my heaviest. I was 57 and 435. At my lowest, I got down to 235. I'm currently at 300. The mind games that number plays on your self-worth, how not obese people tried to tell you that it's just a number and you shouldn't let it affect you. However, you get treated differently, and they don't. I'm gay. All of my gay friends want medals for including me, and brunches for being nice to me, for treating me with a decency. But at the same time, I don't get invited to the bat houses, or the orgies, or any of the parties in Palm Springs. They want to be treated like saints while excluding me from core parts of our culture. Sure, there's the chub chaser community, the fat SS, and the gay community are fine to exist as long as we stay to our designated fat guy zones. But if we dare venture out, we won't exist, we won't be visible, we will be scoffed at. Every once in a while, someone will walk up and place a hand on our shoulder and tell us that we're beautiful, as they quickly walk away, making sure that they get something positive out of the interaction. Well, we're left to dance with ourselves. Being gay and obese is a nightmare. When as I was at my lowest 230, many more people spoke to me. More people would start conversations with me or say hi to me on the street. It really is a mind duck to my human experience. This weight was put on me when I was very young. I really don't know any other life. It's a goddamn curse. I tried my whole life to beat it. I'm 41 every day. I'm not 435 lbs is a success. But majority of my life, I have been obese. Even if I lose all my weight, I'm going to look like a deflated balloon. I think a lot about it, what it would be like to be a normal size. What it would be like to feel that basic humanity that we give one another. It ducking tears me up. I'm real sore about it. Story 37. Shaming isn't helpful or motivating. The health of a stranger isn't your business. Unless A, you are their doctor, B, you're their parent and they're under 18, or C, you are that person. If you're a doctor, take your patients' concerns seriously, no matter their weight. Don't just write them off. Story 38. I'm not obese, but my sturdy friend says you always get this look when boarding a plane in economy where everyone hopes to God you're not in the seat next to them. Story 39. I have limited places I can comfortably go due to the width of my ass. I would love to go to a concert or a movie or on a plane, but it literally hurts to wedge my butt into the seat and I lose circulation. In my legs, if I can't move, I would love to go on roller coasters or Ferris wheels. I don't lack PR toy prawn. On top of that issue, using public toilets is extremely uncomfortable. I prefer to use the handicap stall. And I prod a prawn the times I have had to use the regular size stall, multiply that discomfort by 1000. If I'm on my period, I feel like I always have to be tidy, smell good, and be super put together to make up for people being inconvenienced by my presence. Comian, you're never an inconvenience, and your presence is just as valid as anyone's. Regardless of size or appearance, you deserve better from yourself. Maybe self-validation and love could lead to your understanding that you're worth the effort of losing weight. But regardless of that happening or not, you're as important and valid as anyone worthy of love and respect. It hurt my heart to read that bit about inconvenience. You're far more valuable than that. I'm sorry if you're venting and my statement is too familiar. I'll delete if inappropriate. Story 40. When you are addicted and stop using drugs or curb other bad habits, you stop them completely out of your life, never again kind of thing. Imaging, trying to stop using cocaine but not stop using it. Just use a little bit a day and never use more than just a little bit despite your body craving it all day. 3 puffs of your cigarette every day. But just 3, you can just stop eating. You have to tempt yourself every day multiple times. Eating only enough to live healthy while craving much, much more. Story 41. The treatment and judgment from people back to when I was obese. People always judged or treated me really bad, some probably don't even intentional, when I lost a lot of weight. People started treating me way better, hate to say it, but pretty privilege is a big thing in this world. Comment. I hate how skinny persons think I'm stupid. Oh, she's fat so she doesn't know crap how to be skinny like me. There are so many reasons I gained weight, not only bad eating habits and lack of exercise health issues lead to not being able to even walk without pain, eating more sweets and comfort food because feeling crap caused by pain and stuff like that. So now I'm on the losing weight train and did see a dietitian that was a joke, vegetables, salad, and fruits. I've planned to eat more, change to whole grain bread and dark rice, you name it. Would have needed help with a plan, and maybe more a personal plan. Instead of the generic you hear and read everywhere on weight loss sites, hugs and love for all fellow round persons, we do our best losing it, and we will do it one day at the time. Story 42. How hot it is, even if people around you are cold. I've lost some weight the last couple of months and had to raise the temp on the AC, which was unexpected. Story 43. There's strong judgment from others who have no context, especially if you don't act like you have. Terrible self-esteem, or beat yourself up whenever they mention you being overweight, losing weight. Mainly, I'm on a bunch of meds that can contribute to gaining weight. My baseline hasn't moved from where it's set after finding the right medication dosage. Seemingly regardless of diet and activity, I still get unsolicited advice, and people get mad when I turn their suggestions down. The fact that I didn't drop every other huge issue in my life to try. Losing weight also made people mad. The meds stopped suicidal thoughts, mania, psychosis, rapid cycling delusions, insomnia, rage, and pretty much everything else that made me close to dying. It took about 3 years to find a combo that allowed me to be a mostly sane and functioning person. My life was so scary before that I refused to mess with the medication, just to maybe possibly help lose weight. I'm only just feeling ready to try losing weight. But all of my doctors want to be involved because of how high risk I used to be. Being overweight is better for my health than being in the psych ward or dead, you know. But even people who know me and what I've been through have gotten mad that I don't care right now about losing weight as much as they do. Story 44. In order to lose a big amount of weight, a person has to not just eat better. They need to be emotionally and mentally prepared for massive lifestyle changes. They need to be in otherwise pretty good physical health. They need to have enough money to buy healthier foods, which tend into more expensive than cheap crappy food. They need to have the time to completely relearn how to eat, and they need to be able to completely reprioritize their life so they can overhaul their entire relationship with food. And this is all only if the weight is from overeating and not also from some underlying medical condition. It is an exhausting undertaking that 99% of obese people just don't have the ability to commit to long term, which is why virtually all diets eventually fail. You know that scene in Austin Powers Goldmember where Fred Savage had a giant mole on his face and he tells Austin to get it out of his system? And he just starts yelling mole moly mole. A lot of people give off the vibe that when they see an obese person in their head, they're just screaming fat, fatty, fatty, fat, fat, kind of just like Austin. And we can tell every time y'all are not subtle out here. Story 45. Many of us got this way due to trauma, and we struggle to lose the weight because we aren't healed. We don't choose this. We deserve at most compassion, or at least to not be treated like freaks. Story 46. I'm a guy, I know I'm fat. It's not surprising to me that I'm fat. I know exactly what it would take for me to lose this weight because I've done it before. But I like food. I hate exercise. I work a sit-down job, and my wife finds me attractive as I am. So there is no present tense incentive for me to lose weight. I know it's going to come back to kill me. I know the sleep apnea or the cholesterol or something is going to end my life a decade or two earlier than if I lost 100 lb. There is not a soul on earth who wheezes going up a half a flight of stairs that genuinely believes they are not fat or that they are as healthy as a more fit person. Doesn't matter what they post. Online big is beautiful. They know, I know, we all know. I know we. Story. We are aware we are obese, overweight. You don't need to point it out. You don't need to help. Most of us know how to lose weight, but our brains sabotage us. Some of us are trying to be healthier, but something gets in. The way I am right now, 6 of 360, second time I have been about that weight. At one point, I got down to 225, looked in the mirror, and still saw the same fat dude there every morning. Weight loss has to come with the mental as well. Story 48. Here's a positive and a thread full of negatives. I am way stronger than you think I am. Every moderately active obese person is stronger than anyone else, doing the same level of activity, especially in the legs department. As fat as I am, my calf muscles are ducking shredded. Story 49. Know that I'm fat. You don't have to remind me for one, for two. It often doesn't feel like a choice. A lot of the time I fully understand how weight loss works. I get the physics behind calories in, calories out. I get that weight loss is 90% what you eat and has little to nothing to do with exercise. But the cravings, the urges to eat certain foods, they do not feel like a choice. I'm aware that it is a choice, but when I'm craving something, it's literally every atom of my body that wants it. It's so ducking hard to say no. And I can definitely say that I have cried and been depressed over saying no to a cookie, while weight loss is 90% the food you eat. The mental stuff behind it is even much more massive than that. Story 50. Morio in the situation of an obese child trying to find school uniforms that fit depending on what school you go to. There are uniforms. And as a kid, I was always overweight. I remember being so humiliated because my family had to drive throughout multiple different towns throughout my general area just to find a store that would sell children's school uniforms that had my size, because almost none of them did. We went back and forth store to store, and it was an embarrassing chore to deal with every year. They couldn't provide simple uniforms for me, and it wasn't even like I was that big, but it clearly became an inconvenience for my family to be traveling everywhere, wasting gas just to be told your child is crap. Out of luck, I had to wear men's uniforms with belts just so I could go to school, and it didn't stop the bullying anyway. Story 51. The fact that sometimes we like to treat ourselves when eating out. The amount of times I've gotten looks and comments when getting some nice food, or the issues that can happen with the body after losing significant weight. For example, loose skin, love having to deal with using strong antimicrobial cleaners every day, or risk skin infections. Story 52. That bigger clothes sizes are just modifications of smaller sizes and not actually made to fit larger people. How much the obesity classification doesn't cater to different body types. I'm tall, broad, ag cup with a giant ass. I have high muscle mass, work out regularly, and eat moderately. Even when I'm at my healthiest, I will be considered obese. I think it's very similar to the clothing thing. It's set to a particular body type and doesn't adjust accordingly. Story 53. I have lost 50 lbs and I'm still struggling with losing weight. Every day is an uphill fight that I feel like I'm always losing. It gets really depressing. Story 54. I used to be obese. The worst thing for me was how people looked at me. I'd try to make friends, and the first thing they would do is look at me in disgust. Story 55. Today, my wacky boss took my work group on a surprise trip to a zipline adventure place. I had to psych myself up to try a harness in front of everyone and find out it wouldn't fit the fitting person, just sort of. Shrugged. Then multiple colleagues said things to me like incorrect conjugation, you don't want to do it. Sigh. Then another colleague let me know that the other harnesses are bigger. Why didn't I get offered one when the first wouldn't fit? No idea. I had to pee myself up again to go back and ask for one. Story 56. Fat insulates you from unwanted intimate attention. Check out correlation between intimate huel abuse and obesity. Sometimes those layers are to keep the evil out. You develop an armor against the insults and fat hate. Ironically, you trade one form of abuse for another. Story 57. I know I'm fat. I don't need to be reminded. I'm doing the best I can on this airplane. I bought a window ticket so I can get that extra 2-3 in along the wall. And I'm over there as far as I can be, and I'm petrified you're going to be upset that I might be touching you. I'm so sorry. I'm trying my best. I'm trying to be on my side. Story 58. That even doctors can't see past your weight sometimes, and that blind spot can kill you. I was simply told my difficulty breathing was due to weight-induced asthma and to diet and exercise. After almost a year, found a great pulmonologist that looked at my results and went, that is not asthma, and through a chain of random events finally found out I have a very rare sort of lung cancer caused by an even rarer medical condition, none of which is related to my weight. Story 59. Got into good shape and out of it multiple times in my life already. And the worst thing is how bad people treat you when you are fat. Everybody suddenly loves you when you get thinner. I guess people never leave high school mentally. Story 60. People don't respect you when you're fat, especially if you're a woman. No one takes anything you say seriously. You can be the nicest, funniest, smartest person in the room, but all you are to them is fat. Story 61. I don't want to eat with you. Eating with people is an invitation to get shamed every special occasion. I've had college graduation, birth of children. Usually my dad always points out that you did a good thing, but you're still fat. Maybe you could work on that now. Story 62. Former fatty here telling an obese person they should lose weight is like yelling at a crying kid to stop crying. We know your insightful response is not that insightful. Story 63. That I am honestly and sincerely trying to lose the weight, that I don't mean to take up so much space, and I every aware of how large I am, and I do try to make myself as small as possible. The medications I take to stabilize my brain fortunately have side effects that I'm trying to be proactive about. I'm 5 seconds and 300 lb, I'm doing my best. Story 64. I'm always told how I'm so bubbly or funny. I recently lost like 25 lb. This wasn't even intentional. I had recently started a new job and eating habits routines changed, and people including family started telling me how I liked I'd lost weight and how good I looked. This actually made me feel more self-conscious than I did before. Story 65. How much you have to think about everything. Will I fit in that chair? Is there a place to sit down? Will I be on camera? Who will I have to sit next to? Is there a lot of walking? Etc. Story 66. I'm hot like all the time. How are you not cold right now? Well, Debbie, I'm currently wearing a permanent fat suit, so it tends to keep the heat in. Story 67. People will dislike you just for being fat, especially straight dudes. The number of people that have been rude or unfriendly to me for no other reason is pretty astounding.